I read this book called Vagabonding by Rolf Potts. Have you read it? Do you know it? Okay, so it's interesting because it talks about the art. I think the subtitle is The Art of Long-Term Travel. And it talks about not just traveling, but also the mindset of this kind of detachment and not belonging anywhere, but belonging everywhere. And the last chapter talks about what happens when you go back home. Because you basically went, like, let's say 6 months abroad and you met different people and you were stimulated and you had a lot of experiences. And then you go back home and everyone's lives are still the same. They kept their same routines and everything. And it's really hard to go back with your new mind and try to adjust to that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Europreneur. My name is Nils Zaval, your host today, again from Istanbul, Turkey, as you can see from the weird background. It's kind of weird recording from hotels, but hey, at least I get to travel and meet EO members from all over the world. For those of you who do not know, I just spent a week in amazing Cappadocia with 18 countries. So we had about 25 members during the Regional Leadership Academy, mind-blowing. And if you've never done it before, truly an epic experience. Today, actually, I have a different guest from a different country that did not attend RLA, the Regional Leadership Academy. And I think it's amazing. I've been to Argentina for about 2 months, and that was like 20 years ago. So you will be kind of like my touch-up before I go visit again. Julia, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me there.
You know, it's always interesting. You never know who you're going to meet on these podcasts and what conversations we're going to have. But as we were preparing the conversation and we were talking, so let me see if I get it right. Originally from Argentina, businesses in the US, and now you belong to the European Bridge chapter of EO. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah.
Great. So I think this is episode 20 or 21. So as I do with every single one of my guests, I'm going to ask you to please kindly have your own short elevator pitch about anything you want. So go for it.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm originally from Argentina. I studied computer science. I'm a very nerdy person. And 5 years ago, I started what is now my company, South Geeks. We basically build software development teams in Latin America. We place them to work in our mostly technical clients in the US and Canada. I spend my life in Buenos Aires, where I have my friends and family, and most of it in California, where my business is and my clients are. I'm always missing something or someone, because when you live so much on the road, there's always a connection that you are missing, but I'm really enjoying that time. And as you said, I'm part of the European Bridge chapter. I joined this year and I'm enjoying that very, very much.
So how often do you travel?
Oh, every month or every other month. I try to stay in Buenos Aires at least 100 days a year, and something similar in California. And then the rest is just like up to fate.
So it's interesting. How do you run the businesses? Run remotely?
Yes. Yeah, but my developers and all of my team members, my company is 70 people right now, and they work from home, and they're all across Latin America anyway. So it would be really hard for me to stay in one office, even if I wanted.
Is there a base, though, in Argentina? There's an office you go to when you're there?
We used to have an office before the pandemic. And then after COVID, we asked, do you want us to get the office back? And actually, nobody wanted to go back. We do have on-site meetings in Buenos Aires, which is just like going out for lunch or dinner, or just doing some co-working. But other than that, we are all remote.
Interesting. We'll get back to remote, because we've been having a lot of discussions in the last couple of months on this
I
podcast.
bet.
But what I wanted to ask is, you finish university and stuff, and boom, you build a business?
No, not really. I worked for big corporations before running my own business. I worked for IBM first, which was a great educational experience. I met a lot of my friends there. I learned a lot about the business. I learned a lot about good practices and processes, and like having a good training on good practices for being a professional. And then I used to work in IBM. I used to be part of the Argentinian team members developing software for US companies through IBM. So that was my first time exposed to these, which is called the staff augmentation model. Then after that, I worked for Verizon and Hewlett-Packard for a long time. And then after a while, I joined London-based startup. And that was my first experience with a startup. I was the operational person / tech person / everything, because, small startup, little budget, so we all do what we can. And I joined them, and that was my first experience with small companies. And I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is so interesting. There's so many things to do. And it just took me a year after that to say, hey, I want to have my own company as well.
Could you give me a positive in working in big organizations in comparison to working with small startups?
A positive of big organization. Well, first of all, you have big shoulders. So whenever I wanted to get training for my team, it was like I just waved the budget card, and money would come, and we would have opportunities to go train in Harvard or wherever. We just had budget for everything. And then I think big corporations are really good at generating a feeling of belonging and you feeling part of something bigger, which is one of my biggest challenges as a business owner, just trying to generate that same feeling of belonging in my people as well.
Do you consider 70 people being a small team when you're trying to create that culture, when you're trying to find that essence?
Yeah, we're still small. We've been smaller, so that's something that changes every day. But I think we are small, and we do well on that front. We can always do better, but we put a lot of effort into making sure that people have this feeling of belonging, and that they are basically proud of working for Southfix and being part of our culture.
Is that do you have someone who's in charge for company culture, or is that not yet the phase?
Yeah, there's one person that's the engagement manager, and he's the main champion for not defining the company's culture, but for making sure that he's the ambassador and contagious about it.
And how is he? What's is he happy, or is it he has guidelines to follow, brand book to follow? How's that work?
Yeah, all of the managers, we discuss culture a lot. We recently had with our branding strategist a workshop about this and about putting into words what our culture was for us. And it was interesting to see that even without having had talked about this, we were all in line, and we all silently felt that the company had the same DNA. So then when we had this workshop guided by this person, it was so cool to see how everything tied together, and the way she put in words what we were feeling was so familiar for all of us. And for the engagement manager, he's not the one defining the culture, because the culture is defined by everyone else in the company, I think, by just every single team member. But yeah, just to make sure that we stay on track and that we are consistent with our messages and what we want to have.
What type are your classic, let's say, favorite clients in terms of size and project?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, first of all, we are very picky with our clients. We work with clients that we really like. We had situations because we are basically building teams and we put those teams to work with them. So we need to make sure that the clients have some sort of like cultural alignment. It happened in the past that we assigned a team to work in a client that was not maybe as good with them as we could have wanted, so we just fired them. And we cannot do that every time, but I can say like 100% of our clients right now are aligned with our culture, and we do have a preference. We don't work with big corporations. Not because we don't like them, but just because like it's more comfortable for us to work with companies that are in between 100 and 2,000 employees. That's our sweet spot. And then, yeah.
Question. You mentioned earlier you worked for corporates for a long time. I got the chance to ask this question a few times. So I'll ask you as well. How important do you think today, in today's world, for the young generation to find a place of work, a corporate, to go, to learn, to grow, to understand how an organization works, political issues work, and so on before they go on their entrepreneurial journey? Or do you say, nah, let them try it? Maybe some of them will make money, some of them will succeed.
Well, I think it's super important, but aside of what I think younger generations are more intentional about the work they do. And even I think if they are not getting what they need from their jobs, they just leave. At least that's in technology, where there are a lot of opportunities. And we see people leaving from companies every day just because they don't feel that their purpose is being fulfilled, or that they are not growing as much as they wanted, or things like that.
I would argue what would happen if we went back 70, 80 years to our grandparents and said, do you feel your purpose is being fulfilled? They'll probably smack us and send us back to the field. And I feel that the young generation sometimes lacks the grit to try and stay, to try and change. But again, it's subjective. But it's interesting. In remote work, how do you uphold that young generation? How do you make sure that they're engaged, that they're happy? You know, they get so many opportunities, especially as developers. It goes crazy. How do you get that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and especially in our industry. I think there are so many opportunities. Every team member I have, they get contacted by our competitors on a daily basis. So we need to make sure that they are getting what they want. But I think being honest and genuine pays a lot. I know we have a people first mantra in our company, and I think that's seeable in everything we do. And I think people perceive that, and it's one of the things they mention as one of the perks of working with us. So we do a lot of work into, for example, we have an internal performance coach. We have an internal therapist, just in case you need to vent or just take things out of your chest. We provide, of course, support technically, training. Like, we try to make sure that we are thinking on every single person that works for us and what they might need to be happy and do what they need to do.
Yeah, I don't think you can find a company today that won't mention that employees or people first. And I think it's, as you said, the definition of what it means is to give them the tools to feel better, to give them the tools to keep going. And I think that's important. Do you focus on soft skills, for example, things that might help them outside of the workplace?
Yes, and not just when they are working with us, also from an interviewing perspective. When we bring a candidate on board, we do a competencies interview. And that's basically about reviewing how they work as a team member, how they manage frustration, and how they manage anxiety, like these kind of things that are so important on a daily basis.
Yeah, interesting. Going back to your clients, for example, you said we don't work with anyone. I would like to ask, at the beginning, did you work with everyone, or were you always picky? Were you able to be always picky?
Yeah, well, not, of course. But I was doing the business development myself for the first years, and that gave me a very clear understanding of who and what our clients were before starting to work with them. Whenever I met it was a very artisanal process of getting to know someone and then deciding if we were going to work together. And it had to be a process in which a connection and a common understanding of people and values was aligned. Otherwise, they would not. They wouldn't have liked me anyway. So yeah, that was kind of how it shaped.
I doubt if they wouldn't have liked you anyway.
I promise you.
I felt at the beginning I would say yes to anything and everyone. And I think it took me a while to figure out what are the things I don't like to do, what are the things I'm not good at. By the way, there were some things I didn't like to do, but paid very well. It felt like if I do these 20, 25% of the time, it will help me scale. How do you manage then the life? It's quite tiring to move all the time. You have like what, your same trolley, you go over with the same suitcase?
Yeah, I live out of a carry-on. So you will see me, if you see me in different events, you might see me repeating outfits, definitely. I try to travel light, and something interesting, I just come from a 6 months trip this time. And I arrived in my apartment in Buenos Aires, and something interesting happened. I was looking at my stuff here, and it felt so uncomfortable to have so many. And I don't have a lot of things, but so uncomfortable to have so many little things. Like, why do I need all these creams and all this shampoo and all these like kitchen appliances? So it's like you get used to being a minimalistic kind of traveler. You cannot take everything with you, and I don't want to be dragging a gigantic suitcase with me. So it's kind of a lifestyle in a way, yeah. And
but you have places to live in both Buenos Aires and California.
Yes.
The reason why I'm asking is this year I'll probably be traveling 140 days, and I have a feeling next year is going to be bigger. I have a new book coming out that's called Fuck the Slides. And I've been invited and I like it and I enjoy it. I'm starting to enjoy the lifestyle more and more. And I live in Israel. So everything traveling from Israel is always annoying. So you rather stay in Europe most of the time. And then you start shifting. And I was thinking about moving to Portugal for a while. But that's why I'm asking. It's never easy to make that decision. And then I don't know. I still have an apartment in Israel because I'm still most of the time there. But yeah, this year I think 120 or 140 days I'll be away. So it's starting to kind of like. So where do you live? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, and also it's about not having attachments to your physical stuff. Because I went to Iceland in May, for example, and of course I needed cold weather clothes. So I had all that. And then I went to California. Of course, I don't need any kind of cold weather clothes, although San Francisco could get tricky. But so I just got rid of all my clothes. I went to the Salvation Army, gave them my clothes, and I just got like summer kind of stuff. And then just I do it the way it's convenient, and I don't have attachment to stuff. I do have attachment to people though, and that's I would say the hard part. This sensation of missing so much, but well, technology helps these days, and I'm always a fly away from coming home if I get homesick.
Yeah, I think it's getting harder and harder though to maintain relationships as we're getting older. Like we are away for so long, and then you come back and things are not exactly the same. And yeah, your friends will say we meet, we'll catch up, but it's never the same in a way, right? Like it changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I read this book called Vagabonding by Rolf Potts. Have you read it? Do you know
No,
it? Okay, so it's interesting because it talks about the art. I think the subtitle is "The Art of Long-Term Travel," and it talks about not just traveling but also the mindset of this kind of detachment and not belonging anywhere but belonging everywhere. And the last chapter talks about what happens when you go back home, because you basically went, like, let's say 6 months abroad and you met different people and you were stimulated and you had a lot of experiences, and then you go back home and everyone's lives are still the same. They kept their same routines and everything, and it's really hard to go back with your new mind and try to adjust to that. And the guy says, like, you just take your things for you and you just keep it with you, and it's really hard to have others feeling the way you feel. It's an interesting feeling. I learn a lot from it.
any habits that you maintain or keep while you're traveling and while you're at home?
Yeah, I try to keep an exercise schedule, so especially when I go to the US, because I eat a lot there and I try to compensate that. And then no, I don't know. Other than that, I have my books. You have everything in your laptop. Like my work is there. I'm very, I would say, organized. So I use ClickUp as my productivity tool, and I have everything in there.
You like it?
So
ClickUp?
very much, yes. It takes a while. It has a very slow
Yeah,
learning
I'm
curve.
noticing that most productivity apps or task management apps take so long. It's like they're designed to make sure that you want to go on vacation, not to work. Yeah, you
It's
break in the
possible.
middle. It's like I'm trying. Never mind. I'll take a vacation. So it's no, for example, I run quite often, a few times a week when I'm at home, and I'm noticing it's very hard for me to maintain that when I go traveling. But the moment I go home, I start again. So I don't know, daily coffee, journaling. People have different things about things you can maintain to kind of have a rhythm to life. If not, sometimes for me it feels kind of like it's all over the place now.
Yeah, but that's the beauty as well, like not having a routine and being able to be creative with your days, right?
The moment I go home, I'm back to my routine. It's insane for years. Like the moment um, how do you start a business in Argentina and then work with the US? How do you open that market, which I assume is not easy? Being a woman from Latin America, having an accent, there's all these things against you, but still you made it. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started my company in the US first. So I never had a company in Buenos Aires or in Argentina at all. It was there because of the business model that we have. We benefit from the currency difference between one country and the other, and the cost of living, of course, in Latin America is less expensive than in the US. So there was never a questioning on where the company should live. It was hard at the beginning. Well, I've been working for these corporations before, so I've been to the US many times. It's not the same to be with a corporation than just to bring your carry on. And the way we did business development when we started was basically I would talk to people on LinkedIn. I would say, I'm going to your city, let me buy you lunch or dinner or whatever. And I would go there and I would sit, and I met 300 people in a year, which was exhausting. Very interesting as well, but exhausting. And it's just like me with my suitcase and just trying to get a sale. It was uphill. But you mentioned before, like, this thing about newer generations not having I don't know if you put it that way, but not having the hunger, right? Not having the drive to stick to what you want to do. And it's possible, but I was born at a time where like we used to do sacrifices all the time, and I would do whatever to accomplish what I wanted and what I set my mind to. So I have a strong reliance, and I would just be there, and then one client became two, and two clients became four, and then
But
it started running.
you did 300 meetings. How long before you got the first one?
The first client, we got it after 10 meetings, and it was a client, a person I knew before. So it was not someone that out of the blue hired us.
It's still not a bad conversion.
Yeah, no, not bad. Well, it was slow. It was lower then. And then the second one was I went to South by Southwest, and I reached out to everyone that was going there, and to every CTO that was going there, and to every Austin CTO as well. And that's how we landed our second and third client. And then 2 years ago, something fantastic started happening, which is our clients started recommending us to new clients. And now most of our business comes from referrals. So.
And you still do some sort of marketing, or that's not only referrals?
We do. We haven't been good at communicating and doing branding so far. So we are in the process of putting that, like improving that. But 60% of our current revenue comes from referrals.
But you do development projects for them, am I correct?
Say that again?
You do development projects for them.
Yes.
So what would be your ideal showcase to what you do?
Well, we had many case studies where our clients explained how by working with us, they were able to deliver products faster or better with higher quality, and how we help them doing that because they were not able to do it before, the way their teams were structured, and even reducing costs and getting really good products out there.
I can share with you that one of the worst things for me on my professional journey is developers. And I'll tell you why. I'm a marketing guy. I can sell a lot of things. I can write content. I can do a lot of things. I can develop. I can write code. Now, my main problem is once you sign a contract with a developer, company, freelancer, doesn't matter what, I feel like a hostage. I have no idea what's going to happen. They usually do not communicate what's happening, or if they do, they don't communicate the right way. And if I might suggest, if that's okay with you, is what are the feelings or the fears that we have when we hire someone? By the way, it goes the same way for my marketing agency when people hire us. Now, in marketing, I usually tell people, remember, 90% of what we do is a mistake. We rely on the 10% that is okay, and out of that 10%, maybe 1% will be amazing. So it's a very small margin of success for us. And then people say it doesn't succeed. No, you hired us knowing that it won't succeed. So I think it's very interesting if you could, for me, I would like to see the ads or the customer journey or all these things talk about will walk with you hand in hand. You know, it might take a bit longer. It might cost a bit more. By the way, these are things I don't mind. We're now, by the way, in a development project that should have been done in June. Okay. And it's been extended. We're making changes. They're making changes. But at a certain point, nothing's really happening. There's just a lot of frustration, you know? So it's about, at the end, we're not buying the development. We're buying the feeling or the emotion that someone will be there when we need them to walk us all the way to the finish line.
Yeah. You know? No, you're right. And I think that what we sell, and I always say this to my team, we are selling trust, basically, which is something really hard when you, like, we cannot, that's why I think we cannot fail. We cannot not have integrity, because that's what we are selling, basically, confidence. The difference is that we don't sell products. We don't clients don't come to us with an idea. We deliver a product. That would be a totally different mammal. What we sell is teams. So basically, when I meet with a client and we try to identify if we are a good match for what they need, all we need to know is what kind of technologies they're working with, what kind of teams they have. And basically, all of our clients have a CTO or a proper technical structure and someone inside the company that will be able to guide our team members. So it would be really weird that one of our clients is blinded because they will be managing our people.
Yeah. By the way, my dream is to have a CTO in my company just to look at the ideas. That's it. We did this test when you look at your attributes and your character. And a lot of the people came out as visionaries. And there's certain people who are visionaries but have the ability to also plan. There's some visionaries that are totally confused. There's visionaries who can facilitate what needs to be done and so on. And I was thinking that in many ways, what we need is people to help us accomplish that dream, right? So if you have that company, that culture creates a situation where together we can accomplish more. In a sense, if I have a vision for something without a technical co-founder, manager, CTO, so on, my dream is nothing. And I feel that as more EO members I meet, seeing how they've structured their things is very, very interesting. But on the other hand, have you heard of a concept called indie hackers?
No.
I'll send you the link. I'll put it here. I love there's 260 episodes on the podcast, but indie hackers are people who usually are technical, and they build things alone. And some of them will scale to $1 million, but they're alone. They figure shit out. They go to Bali for $400 a month. They have $4,000, and they're like, I have 10 months to build a platform. And they build something that you say, who needs this? And they ended up selling it or scaling. Most of them are self-funded, and that's really interesting. And they're so they need to spend very little money. So they go to very cheap countries and they work. So I think it's very interesting to see the differences. And I find so much inspiration in those people to bring back to our companies. I'll share that with you. I think you'll like it.
Please.
Many of them, and many of them travel like you. And by the way, some of them are building platforms for digital nomads or people who travel a lot. So it's always interesting. Would you live in Europe?
I would love to live in Europe, but my problem with Europe is that as most of my clients are in California, when I'm there, I usually work from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., which gets tricky, but that's my dream. If you ever ask me, my retirement place would be Mallorca in Spain, and so I would love to live there.
The next step would be what? To scale the business in more places in the US, or find a manager to run the business, or you can do Mallorca?
So, no, I don't see clients there. But this has been a very intense year for us. When we started the company, we were 2 partners. I just bought my partner out last month, so it's been quite a journey. And I just finished restructuring the company to make sure that everyone adjusts to these. The managers are doing what they need. Everyone knows their goals. So it's been an intense year so far. I think it's been a really good year. And in terms of scaling, I have 2 mentors and a coach, so I talk about this a lot with them. And next year we are starting a whole vertical for education, because there's a lack of developers, of course, and that's even worse every time we discuss this. So we're gonna start just training people on our clients' platforms and having them working on the platforms. And it's going to be more long term. And I like the fact that we'll be able to do something to resolve one of the problems we have. So
interesting. Do you use any other internal platforms that you think you might be moving on to creating something like that, or everything you use is external and you don't mind?
no, everything we use is external. The only kind of platform I'd like to build eventually, and not for this year definitely, but perhaps 2024, it's a platform for our clients to interact and have a sort of like dashboard and everything tidy. And I couldn't find something in the market that would resolve that. And that would be very interesting to see, like to follow the customer journey and then to follow our candidates' journey and to have everything like a one-stop shop.
Love it. I'm a big fan of how to improve the customer journey, and we know how much value it has. Sometimes, by the way, you tweak something so small, it goes exponential. People go crazy about it.
Yeah.
It's always interesting. What do you think about no-code or low-code platforms?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's totally outside of what we do because we work for clients that have different kind of products. But it's an interesting concept. I don't know how far it could go. With AI, there are many things, and you can see, like even in the metaverse, there's so many things done that would blow your mind. So I think in a future, like in a long-term future, we could see some of the jobs that we are doing now replaced. I don't think I live to see that. But yeah, we'll be.
It's interesting that you say that. I remember, I know, when I started my journey in retail and we would work in a shop, and we said it's so interesting. We get their details and then we need to extract them. And then after you extract those emails, you need to put them in a platform. The platform can't do this. And what if it could all be in one place? And today we streamline so many things and everything's automated, and
Yeah.
we can create customer journeys that we couldn't imagine less than 10 years ago. And I have a feeling that technology goes now on an exponential level, like every 3 years is something that took 10 years or something crazy like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, now we have it on video. So in 10 years, you can send me these and say, hey, Julia, you've been replaced with the AI.
Yeah,
And
if
you thought
can't
you would
make
never
it,
see that.
you can make it and find your AI to do it for you.
Yeah.
Very
It's
interesting.
possible. Yeah.
So remote work, you think that's the future?
I think it's the present, most of it. It's here, and I think it's here to stay. It would be really hard to convince people to go back to an office full time. I see value in interacting physically, aside from everything in Zoom calls. I still try to have, whenever I'm here, I still try to have 2 or 3 meetings a year with my team members and see them, and it helps a lot. It helps a lot with team bonding. But at the same time, we are all learning how to develop connections and building relationships remotely. So anything is possible.
Yeah, I feel you. We're all learning how to do it. I feel that the small connections, my form and EO, we went to Rome for a few days. Okay. We have our phone sessions, we have the normal things, we discuss, we build our futures and so on. And it's very interesting and I love it. And, the biggest comment we had is we should have worked more. But then we have a lot of social time. And for the social time, you go to restaurants, you do some venues, and you go to the Coliseum. It's very nice. What happens? The magic is when we walk. The magic happens between the venue and the work. And I fear that this is where we are lacking, because the soft skill of creating relationships, of understanding, of seeing someone's face, their expression, my fear is that we are slowly losing that. And now people are saying, I don't like this, I'm out. Yeah. And they're not what happens if empathy will lose?
Yeah.
We lose a bit of our empathy because we're not there. Because
Yeah.
when someone says, "Hey, can you help me? I have to go. I'm meeting my girlfriend," and they don't know. They're like, "No,
Yeah.
dude, I need to watch this
Yeah.
show on Netflix." And that's why I feel that it might be missing. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. What's happening now in terms of work from home. I'm saying we need, as entrepreneurs that run businesses with employees, to be a bit mindful about accountability for one another in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we're using just 2 of our 5 senses this way, right? We're just seeing each other partially because you don't get the same, and just like listening to each other. And again, you like even the sounds of the voice, you cannot hear the breathing or everything, right? And we're just like, we're not like getting any other information from other human beings.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I spent a lot of time in the US. It would be very hard for me um, to get clients if they like they're basically buying these contracts with someone in South America they've never met, and that they are saying, "Hey, we'll have your back. We'll partner with you. We'll make your projects possible." How can they trust that? They don't speak the language. Like we are not even in the same culture.
Yeah.
That's a huge that's a
Yeah.
huge gap.
You know, I don't know how it works in other countries, but where I come from in Israel, unless there's an issue, we still hug.
Okay.
And when you have a birthday and your colleagues hug you, it means something. When you work
Yeah.
from home, it doesn't mean that. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So it's a big part. Julia, I want to say a huge thank you. I know it took a while to organize this. I had the pleasure. Any last notes for the young people out there in Europe that are going to see this?
No, just thank you so much for the time, and thanks for having me here.
It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. My friends, another episode is over. Thank you very much. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, rate us on any platform. If you're doing audio, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and make sure you visit eoeurope.com. That's the website with all the content, the stories, a little bit about the chapters and the members. And come on, start your own business. Go for it. See you next time.